Good day, everyone. It is Peter Dunn, Pete the Planner, host of the Pete the Planner Show. Happy spooky season, everybody. It's October 30th, the day before Hallows Eve. And I'm here. I was going to wear a costume and do something funny, but I just don't have any funny going on right now. And nothing's wrong. I'm out of funny. But I do have two guests today instead of one. And by guests, I mean, well, Dame's always the co-host. Hello, Dame.
Hey, Pete.
I just called you a guest on your own show. How's that?
Yeah, my name's not on it, so technically I am a guest.
And we added a white. That's Phil.
But I have the most hair though.
Yeah, you look at it's looking trim though. Oh, we got to introduce you, everybody. This is Phil Schuman, the executive director. I'm just making titles up now because I haven't asked you your title in a long time. Phil is the executive czar of financial wellness at Indiana University.
That's more or less correct.
What is your new title? It changes. It's always long.
It's executive director of financial wellness and education.
And education.
And education.
Is that new?
They let me teach people. Yeah, we'll call it new.
Phil is a longtime friend, He and I have been on many journeys together across this beautiful country of ours. Oh, we got to say hello to our regulars, by the way, Phil. Danza, of course. Good day to you, Danza. Hello to Jameson down in Texas. Phil, let's put you on the spot here, Dame. You know what question I'm going to ask him? Has he ever watched the live stream?
Yes.
I don't believe you.
No, you haven't.
I'm not a person that comments, but yes, I have watched the live stream.
Phil and I had
my daughter's lunch. So.
Phil and I have had a number of romantic meals together. The most recent that stands out to me is in Washington, D.C. We had a wonderful dinner together.
That was the French restaurant, right?
Yes.
We
wined and dined him. Yeah, it was good.
You did.
So, Dame, of course, I wanted to have Phil on. We're going to talk a lot about higher ed today and a lot of the challenges higher ed is facing based on the pandemic. And there's really no one I'd rather talk to about that than one Phil Schuman. So here's how the show is going to run down. Phil, welcome to your pre-production meeting for today. I want to start out with just, of course, introducing Phil, see what's going on campus, what's the vibe. That could last a whole segment, maybe not, I don't know. But by the end of that, I want to start to talk about the impact this has on tuition. There was an article that I sent over to you today, Dame, about how some colleges are already slashing tuition. Look who's here, everybody. It's Craig Anderson.
Craig.
Did someone say higher ed? If we want to add another middle-aged white guy, we could have Craig on. By the way, we did get some good feedback here. Grant says my volume's a 2, Dame's is a 6, and Phil's is a 200.
Okay, let's fix this. Why is that happening?
Grant, I'm going to assume that by 6 you mean perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, I would assume that's what he wants.
How about now?
Well, yeah, now you're just whispering, but yeah, that's better. I know it's fine. Oh, guys, we're also trying some additional influencer language here on the show. So go ahead and smash that like button. Is that working? Is everybody smashing the like button? Go ahead and hit sub and hit it for notifications. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. I'm sorry. All right. Sorry, I'm going to do in a few other settings here, and then we'll be good to go. You know, because this is going so well. Input volume.
As long as I'm not yelling anymore.
Oh, man. Phil is so loud.
I hear that. Do you hear the under that static again, Pete?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to try something different here.
Guys, you know how the show works. You log on. We mess around with the audio settings for 10 minutes, and then we start the show at noon on the nose, which was 10 seconds ago. But we will start the show soon. As soon as we get Phil to stop screaming. Maybe it's all the acoustic guitars are messing with the acoustics of your room.
That's so true.
Let's all stare at his guitars, everybody.
All right, now I'm being told that Phil and Pete are fairly comparable.
Yeah.
And that now that I am loud.
You're loud now?
That's what I'm being told.
Oh my gosh. You know what, you guys, here's the thing. I got gigs this afternoon. I gotta roll on. We're gonna start the show and we'll figure it out. Phil, you're a veteran of the game. You know how this works.
Yep.
As you're watching your Zencaster, though, my friend, the first segment is 9 minutes and 22 seconds. So if you see that time running and you're getting around 9:15, wrap it up because I got to hit the post.
9:22. Okay.
All right.
Works for me.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com, and we will answer your question. When I say we, I mean mon frere. I switched to French this week. It's Damian Dunn, Vice President of Advice at Your Money Line and Hey Money. Hello, Dame.
Hey, Pete.
We have a very special guest today. I'm very, very, very excited. All the way from Indiana University, the Executive Director of Financial Wellness and Education, Lucy Schuman's dad.
That is the best way of introducing me.
We're not even going to say your name the entire show. You are just Lucy Schuman's dad.
I'm good with it.
All right, Phil Schuman, Executive Director of Financial Wellness and Education, Indiana University, longtime friend of Dame and I's. Phil is truly, he's going to blush and deny this, one of the most influential people in higher ed financial wellness in the country, hands down, and we have had the pleasure to work with him for a very long time. Phil, most people know what it's like out there right now in terms of the safety of the world and COVID, and what's the vibe on college campus right now, especially at Bloomington, Indiana University? What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, so first of all, it's really strange. Like I've been working from home for the past in October, so almost 8 months now. So the number of times that I've stepped foot on a college campus at this point has been very, very limited. I've probably been on campus maybe 10 times in the past 8 months, which is just weird in of itself. The vibe has been pretty interesting. Definitely the crowds and whatever you want to say is definitely more sparse related. And I have to say kudos to the students here who have really done a good job in respecting sort of the mask mandates and all of that. Like, I think this town was pretty concerned about how that was all going to play out when things started. But realistically speaking, like they've done a phenomenal job of keeping everybody safe. And, you know, sadly, as you look at the rest of the state of Indiana with how sort of the numbers are spiking, Bloomington has been pretty consistent and a little bit on a downturn lately. And I think that's just a testament to people sort of following the rules. As much as people can right now, or as much as people can right now, they're getting out, they're contributing to the economy here in Bloomington, but it's definitely a different vibe. It's concerning.
Yeah, so Dame, one of the things that you and I talk a lot about when we're just talking to each other is about the economy. And I wonder, what's your guess before Phil tells us? What's the local economy of Bloomington look like? A 1 to 10, 10 being it's what it always is, 1 being it's a dumpster fire. Where do you guess it at, Dame?
Gosh, they haven't had really any football weekends, so to speak, up to this point, although I know that's changing now. I have no idea what the plans are for basketball season as far as what's going to come in, as far as bringing visitors to town, which is a big boost. I'd have to say probably 5 at this point. I mean, to say it would be half of what it normally is may be generous, honestly. Pete or Phil, what do you think?
That was actually the number that came into my head. First of all, to correct you, though, we've really never had a football weekend here before.
Oh, wow.
You just got ranked by beating Penn State.
We did, and of course we did it when we couldn't have fans or anything along those lines. But yeah, we're getting there. But up until this point, it's been a process trying to get the football weekend. But kudos to the team for last weekend. Got my pride back here. You can't see it because of the lower third. But anyways. So I mean, I would say a 5. We are seeing, the restaurants and that scene here in Bloomington has always been really strong, and we've seen a lot of the local community come out and really support them as much as they possibly can. That's been sort of my wife's and my approach to all of this is that we'll dine out from local restaurants twice a week, just make sure we're contributing to the economy, just because we have the means to do it. But it's definitely not what it normally is here. And it's going to be really interesting to see, too, how this all plays out in the wintertime, because students are about to leave in a month. And so what's it going to look like between then and I think they come back at the beginning of February.
Yeah, one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on today is because there's just nonstop news out of college campuses about the impact that COVID-19 is going to have on several aspects of college life. Number one, the financial ramifications for students. If they can't work as much and therefore they'll have to take on more student loan debt potentially. You've also got the idea that colleges and universities themselves are suffering because enrollment is down. Then you get into this newer concept that I've seen here in the last couple days is that colleges and universities are going to start cutting tuition. Some have. Southern New Hampshire University, SNHU, is free tuition for first year students and then like a 60% cut in the second year. So we're going to explore all of that today. Let's start, Phil, though, with from a financial perspective, what's the vibe of students? Are they being more conservative? Are spending less money? What's going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a tough question to answer just because like the scope of the student or the range of the students is very different. So I see a lot of students that probably are operating the same they always have over the course of time, which, isn't necessarily the greatest thing to see in one sense, but on the other hand, like it's nice to see that there are people that are able to, again, contribute to a lot of local businesses here. So that is nice to see. And weirdly, in a lot of the one-on-one appointments I've had with students, a lot of the conversations have actually been around the idea of investing and around 401k or 401ks, IRAs, all this kind of stuff, which is really strange. But there are students that are trying to use this as an opportunity, and kudos to them for doing it. But on the other hand, you have a lot of students, both in Bloomington, and IU's got, several regional campuses across the state and different local economies, where you've got students that are coming from families that have really suffered because of this. And so they're trying their best to figure out what resources they can use to put themselves in a position that's going to allow them to continue to get their degree. Because the biggest concern from my standpoint, from my office's standpoint, is we've got to make sure that these students that may have been struggling to begin with, and now they're even struggling more, or they're just starting to struggle because they've got job losses in their families. Like, what can we do to sort of help them overcome whatever financial barriers they have to completion? Because at the end of the day, that's what my job is about, is trying to address financial issues that are going to prevent students from getting out the door with a degree.
Yeah, I wonder, Phil, you talk about kids asking about investing. I shouldn't say kids. I always do that. Students asking about investing. Is there a big Robin Hood movement going on campus these days? Robin Hood is a thing specifically for younger people who are learning to invest. Have you had many questions around that?
We've had, I'll say, like, the Robinhood presence has been around even before all the news came out this year about some of the things that were happening there. We've had students not necessarily asking specifically about Robinhood, but they've definitely been asking about, online robo-advisors, things along those lines. What are my thoughts on those, going that route? Obviously not going to the extent of like telling them what to invest in, but, just letting them know, like, this is sort of what's happening and being mindful of what has transpired because of Robinhood earlier this year.
Yeah, Dame, you and I obviously generally get to people when they're in the workforce, and oftentimes we're helping them deal with student loans. And I wonder from you, Dame, have you seen a trend already with parents who you talk to taking out less student loan debt or more student loan debt during this pandemic, or is that not something you've really seen?
The trends that I've seen are still parents trying to figure out how they're going to pay for it, especially if there's been an income disruption inside their household right now. So the concerns that have been there for the last 10, 12, 15 years primarily, or not even primarily, but they're still there. How are they going to pay for it? And it's not going away anytime soon.
So here's what we'll do. We have Phil Schuman, Executive Director for Financial Wellness and Education at Indiana University, joining us on the program. Of course, we've got Damian Dunn as well. This entire episode, we're going to talk about higher ed, the ramifications of the pandemic and the recession on higher ed, the cost of school, and what universities will do going forward. This is the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Is that Lucy in the background that I hear?
Can you hear that?
Very lightly. But you can't hear it on the air. I love
It's very
it.
fun.
Yeah, she is here. I mean, she's out in the other room.
All right, so I got a pop quiz for the two of you, also all the listeners. If you had to guess, including part-time students, how many people are enrolled at SNU, Southern New Hampshire University?
Well, Danza, longtime show contributor, is going to SNHU.
Okay,
Dame, I'm going to go big on this. I'm going to say, because it's a big online university too, so I'm going to say 227,000 students, enrollees.
Phil, got a guess, or is this kind of inside stuff that you would know?
I don't know the answer to this. My guess would be 112,000.
All right, Craig P. Anderson, higher ed expert at 70,000. Do we have any other guesses from the peanut gallery?
Any more bets? Any more bets?
Jameson says 30,000. While you guys are still guessing, I would like to tell everyone, what's up, guys? It's your boy Pete. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you can get notified when I post fresh new content. What was that? Olivia, Oz. Oh, oops. Wait. Levi says 60. Oz says 80. And Brooke. Oh, your Moneyline and Hey Money team member, Brooke, joining the program today. Oh, look at, hey, Brooke. What is it, Dame?
Just over 90,000 students.
Ooh, I think Phil was the closest, wasn't he? At 114?
Somebody said 80.
No, are we doing prices right or not?
Price is Right style. Yeah, it's the 80 that gets it.
Well, that's the strange thing is I've been home for 8 months and I still haven't watched an episode of Price is Right. That seems wrong.
I'm resetting the audio, so Dame, just carry it, and Phil, carry on from here. All right, there I'm back.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, sorry, I had to reset the audio. It's just how these things work. Phil, this thing's taped together.
I mean, I would expect no other way. I didn't think you did this in just one clear, coherent stream.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next segment. I want to go ahead and hit some of the cuts that universities are making. Phil, I will not put you in an uncomfortable position. I am going to, of course, disclaim that you are not speaking for Indiana University. But I want to explore some of these things, and I think I have to reset the audio one more time now. So hold on a second.
Should we say that he's speaking for Purdue University?
All right. Dame, do you make comments when I can't hear? Is that what you just did?
Yeah, I did.
Phil, are you dressing up for Halloween this year?
Well, so here's the sad thing is that originally my plan was about 8 months ago. I actually had a costume idea and I was going to be a contestant on Supermarket Sweep. And now look what's happened. I was just going to get a sweater, put a number on it, get a shopping cart, and that was
How
it.
are you
But
gonna-
now I feel like that's too perfect.
How were you going to get a shopping cart?
There are some in my neighborhood.
Segment starting in 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner Show, special guest Phil Schuman, Executive Director for Financial Wellness and Education at Indiana University, joins us. And by us, I mean Damian Dunn and I. Phil, this next segment, we are going to be talking about some of the major cuts universities are making as it relates to cost-saving measures. And I think it's important to say that I'm going to ask you your thoughts on these things, but it's probably important for us to say your views don't necessarily reflect those of Indiana University when it relates to this conversation. Do you think that's a good thing we should talk about?
That is very true to say, and also it should be noted that I don't really have decision-making authority, so...
Oh, so you're married. Okay.
Yes.
So from the New York Times this week, and depending on, well, let's just move on. Ohio Wesleyan University is eliminating 18 majors. The University of Florida's trustees this month took the first steps towards letting the school furlough faculty. The University of California, Berkeley has paused admissions to its PhD programs in anthropology, sociology, and art history. This is a long-winded way to say, fellas, major changes coming to college campuses. And Phil, this is at a time that is preceding the enrollment cliff that was promised to us all in the next 4 or 5 years. So first, What is the enrollment cliff for those that don't know, and how will these early changes, in your opinion, affect that journey to be prepared for the enrollment cliff?
Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be really interesting. So, for those that aren't familiar with the concept of the enrollment cliff, basically in 2025, give or take a year, basically we are expecting to see fewer high school graduates across the country. In most places, there are a few places where we will see an increase based on just how the populations have moved. But if you do the math, 18 years before that was the recession. And the recession was a time when people were having fewer kids, and so therefore there are going to be fewer high school graduates, which means more colleges are going to be competing for fewer high school students or high school graduates, and so a lot of colleges are expecting to have a decrease in enrollment because of it.
And this is a challenge, Dame, because as you and I know, because we do a lot of work in higher ed for institutions, we help with their financial wellness. Colleges and universities spend a lot of money. They have a lot of faculty and staff. They have a lot of programming. They have amazing benefits. So, Phil, the challenge here is you've got rising costs in a period of time where people are trying to cut costs because students won't be there. Have you seen any trickle down impact at Indiana specifically as it relates to major publicly made available information relating to cost saving measures?
I mean, there haven't been a whole lot. Obviously, this year we were asked to take a little bit of a budget reduction or just like trim our expenses, which we did, before our fiscal year starts in July. We did that, as sort of a preventative measure there. That's helped us get to the situation we are. And I will say, I feel fortunate working for Indiana University because the fiscal management has been so solid over the last few years. Like, we are in pretty good shape, all things considered. But we haven't seen too many big things happen. I think sort of the biggest thing that happened, and I'm going to say the specifics in very general terms because I can't remember exactly what happens. But I know that some of the athletic department was asked to, I think some were asked to furlough, and there were some cuts to staff positions there. But we haven't seen anything yet that's been broad-reaching across the university. But I do have friends and colleagues that work at other institutions across the country that have already been told, like, this next fiscal year, you're going to have to take a week or two in furlough. There are sort of those cuts that are starting to happen.
Yeah, Dame, those athletic programs generate quite a bit of revenue. I know your family's fan of Notre Dame football, and I think that has quite the impact on the community up there.
Sure, athletics plays a huge role in the success of the towns that these colleges and universities are located in, and they do bring a huge amount of revenue. But I think one other area that we haven't necessarily talked about yet is that public universities are going to see their money from the states start to drop soon as well, because they're not taking in tax revenue, so they're going to have fewer students for tuition and whatnot. They're also going to get less money from the state. And I don't want to say one major way to fix that. There's a few ways you could fix that, but it could potentially make it more difficult for in-state students to get accepted because their tuition is much cheaper than out-of-state students. Yeah. So you start looking at the possibility of having more out-of-state students accepted to your home state colleges, making that a much more competitive playground to try and get accepted to.
Phil, you and I have had that conversation quite a bit, and I'm curious your thoughts on it, because I think if people are feeling that safety is of the utmost importance and they want to stay closer to home per se, are you going to start to see out-of-state enrollment and international enrollment come down, which, and I don't want to say this in a gross way, those are bigger profit centers for public universities as opposed to the in-state student?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of cases, in-state or out-of-state students, international students help out because they're paying a higher price. They sort of subsidize the cost for those in-state students. And for an institution like Indiana University, really, our first and foremost responsibility is to educate the people of the state of Indiana so we can boost up our own economy. And as Damien said, part of the problem we've got is we are going to see fewer in-state appropriations this year. Because of sort of the tax revenue that's coming in from the state. Now, that's not a new thing. We've seen less and less every single year. And so the question is just going to be from a budgetary standpoint, what are we going to do, or what is the institution going to do to sort of combat that declining revenue? Are we going to look to additional out-of-state international students? And that presents its own challenge, at least on the international front, because of a lot of policies that have come in place that have made it less attractive for international students to come here. Or, I'm going to say this, I don't think it's going to be the case necessarily, at least a huge one. Like, do you have to raise tuition? And if so, like, how much can you do that? Or as you're seeing these other institutions do you have to start cutting programs, and do you have to sort of reestablish what your identity is in terms of who and what you're educating on, to sort of make it work?
Yeah, I have to say, and we're going to talk about in the next segment, colleges and universities taking the opposite approach, which is to cut tuition to try to get students to come here. I wonder, Phil, early on in this pandemic, as we looked at what fall of 2020 would look like on campus, there was this big discussion around, well, if this is distance learning, if I'm just sitting in an apartment or sitting in a dorm or sitting at my parents' house doing distance learning, there's got to be some sort of cost savings there. But from what I understand, getting the mechanism set up to handle all that was actually an increase in expenses. Is that what you're seeing too?
Yeah, having the technological capabilities. I'm going to get this wrong, but like I just remember the first month or two we had a meeting, and it was something along the lines of, Indiana University over the course of a month had streamed 1 million minutes of Zoom meetings, something just ridiculous, which to have that bandwidth is quite a bit of a cost. And I would say, like, I put 1 million. I know it was around that number. It could be more, a little bit less, whatever. But huge number there. And then you also have to keep in mind that, like, all the people that are teaching, the faculty and staff, like, they didn't go away. And so their costs are exactly the same. So you're really only adding costs, not to mention, all the upkeep with buildings and stuff like that. While they're just, sitting idle, they still exist. You have to make sure they're still in good shape. Those costs don't go away as well. So you're just adding the technological cost to it. Now, granted, you're setting up, hopefully you'll make use of that once the pandemic is over, and you can start doing some new cost efficiency type things because you have these systems built in place. But yeah, costs have increased.
Yeah, it's funny. Yes, they have to maintain the buildings, keep them polished and new and working and heated. But you got to think utility costs are coming down though too, right? Because you're not keeping the temperature at the same level. But with that thought, I teed you up with Dame. I'm going to break. Coming up after the break, what colleges and universities are cutting expenses? That's next. I'm Pete the Planner. I meant cutting tuition, but I was so late because I set Dame up with a question and then didn't let him answer.
I really had no idea what I was going to do if you paused to let me answer. Other than maybe just close the segment.
We'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll answer that question when we're back in a minute.
All right, resetting the audio. You guys know how this works. You won't be able to hear me, so Dame, make fun of me if you want.
Not this time.
All right, everybody.
He can hear me.
Now it says waiting for host to join. Oh, there we go. This makes me feel better. I'm not in there alone anymore.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It totally kicked me out. So
yeah, it kicked me out too. I was a little surprised by that.
I wonder if it'll let him back in this time, or if we'll have to. There he is.
Sorry.
His health check still hasn't passed yet.
It's complicated. What's this say? What's the speck in the rear view mirror? The post. I don't know if I understand what that means. Oh. Wow, Dave, that's the meanest thing you've ever said about Pete yet. What did you say?
You'll have to listen to the show.
Let me say this, Dave, you're a very nice man, and I know this because you have wonderful children like Thomas, who's probably inside right now getting homeschooled by the better teacher in your household. Is Thomas going to dress up for Halloween this year, Dame?
I think so.
Do you know what he's going to be?
He really wants to be an old school ghost with just a sheet draped over his body with eyes, and I'm gonna probably try and figure out a way to make that happen. So,
you may not believe this, but Ollie, my 6th grader, is also going as an old school ghost, but she's wearing Coachella-style sunglasses, and she's calling herself the ghost of Coachella, and I don't even know what that means.
Okay. I can explain Danza's joke to you.
Yes.
The post is what we would have missed had I answered that question. It was in the rearview mirror.
Not one broadcasting lesson. Starting the segment in 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner Show, special higher ed edition of the show this week as we look at the impact that COVID-19 and the recession has had on higher ed. Joining me, as always, is Damian Dunn. Dame, I haven't got to talk to you much this episode because of our special guest dropping all the knowledge. Dame, how you doing? You have a good week? Everything good?
Yeah, it's great.
Our special guest is Phil Schuman. He is the Executive Director of Financial Wellness and Education at Indiana University. Phil, you talked about there's the potential that down the road that some private and public universities may have to raise tuition. Well, there's another side to that too. Many are cutting tuition, including Southern New Hampshire University that just made the first year of school, well, free, and then they're cutting tuition by 60% next year as well. Phil, what is that going to do to the value of an education if is it free? Are we getting into like Bernie Sanders territory? Like what's happening here?
I mean, I think this is the first I'm hearing of it, which is it's a very interesting idea, but I think the idea is, this is going to sort of devalue
Hold on, guys.
higher ed.
Stand by. I am not recording this somehow.
Oh.
Oh, boy.
What was that about turning the stream into the whole podcast?
Fist fight you. It's okay, everybody. You know what? We're going to do that same thing again. 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner Show. Dame, our special guest, Phil Schuman, has been with us this entire program. He's the Executive Director of Financial Wellness and Education at Indiana University, which means you and I have not got to talk much to each other.
It's true.
No, we haven't.
Phil, so there's another trend going on right now in higher ed, and it's not that universities are raising tuition to make up for costs. They're taking it from the other side of the aisle, which is to cut tuition, including Southern New Hampshire University, in a stunning move, said it's offering a free year for first-time freshmen on campus this fall, and then discounting tuition by more than 60% next year. How is this going to work if people are losing money, yet then they're making the education free?
It's it's the first I'm hearing of it, so this is a really interesting idea. And you said it's for on campus?
It is. That's a good question. Well, because Southern New Hampshire University has a lot of online education, so maybe it's free online.
And that's my guess, is that maybe what their approach to this is that they're saying, what we can try and do is we can get more students in the door. Even if we have to discount it, because they have the online mechanism, since they built up the system over the last few years, they can get people in the door and then hope they stick around to the point where they have more sophomores, juniors, seniors, things like that, and so they're paying tuition at that point. And really, all it costs Southern New Hampshire right now is just to waive tuition that first year.
Man, Craig Anderson, we should have done like a 4-way chili bowl here, because he knows it. If you're following along on Facebook Live right now, which you can do. As we record the Pete the Planner Show, Craig Anderson is a friend of the show, and he worked in higher ed for a very long time, and let us know that it mitigates most of student loan default risk when first year is free. Phil, I see that you were joined here live on radio with us with Lucy Schuman, so we're excited to see her. Hello, Lucy. Can you say hello?
Hey, Lucy, can you say hi to Mr. Pete and Mr. Damian?
Hi.
Hi. You are a media star in the making, just like your father.
True. She was on the show 6 years ago when she was just a little kid. Can you do me a favor and go out there for just a few minutes?
Man, this is COVID-19 through and through, is it not, Dame?
Totally.
Me do.
Oh, I will come and help you in just a minute.
Good thing she looks like her mother. I mean, isn't that like the real takeaway from all of this?
The most, she got my eyes. That's it. That's perfect.
Phil, so another university, Fairleigh Dickinson, I should say. I was thinking of Eric Dickerson. Announced it will slash tuition for all new students on its New Jersey campuses in the fall of 21 to $32,000, which is a 25% discount from current costs. And Rider University says it's going to reduce its undergraduate tuition for students by 22% to $35,000 from $45,000. Do you think this is actually going to turn into a consumer going, wait a second, maybe I can go to a university I've always wanted to go to at a much better deal? Do you think this will stoke demand?
It's possible. I think sort of the jury's out on that. Like, it's an interesting move, and I think it's one that's we're going to see a few more universities do over the course of time. The question is going to come back to, like, with and Jameson, I agree with that. She's definitely the best guest. What I think is interesting, I think in the case of Fairleigh Dickinson and the case of Rider, I believe they're both private institutions, and so they have the ability to sort of make those moves. But when you get into like larger public institutions that are sort of hinge on having the government subsidize some of the cost or provide some of the cost, like it's going to be difficult because in the case of IU too, like IU has to answer to the government as it relates to raising tuition or anything along those lines. They can't just go do it freely. They have to get it passed through the government. So maybe some of these institutions that are more independent or whatever you want to say there, like they might make those moves, but I don't think we're likely to see that from a public institution side of things, or at least not to the same extent.
What I think might be an interesting strategy, Phil, and correct me if I'm off on this, but I believe the highest dropout rate or highest likelihood for dropout is your freshman year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what if universities started to shift the cost of an education, make that first year less expensive, but then incrementally bump up that sophomore, junior, senior year, or just make it a static cost for everything past your freshman year? If you're going to drop out or you're going to try college, knowing that you have less of your money at stake, if you're not sure it's for you, maybe that attracts more people to the gates in trying this thing out if they know the cost is less that freshman year.
I mean, I have not heard anybody talk about that. Or, again, I could just be completely ignorant and haven't been a part of these conversations, but I think that idea is not too bad at all. For me, the most important thing, as you're saying, you get people in the door, and that's obviously the most important thing. And then what a lot of higher ed institutions now, and I'm sort of a product of this at this point, is that we have a lot of wellness services and whatever you want to say, a lot of programs in place that are designed to help those students that are making that transition get from the first year to the second year and on. So if you get more students in the door by discounting the tuition and then can help them figure out how they can stick around, I think that's a really great way of going.
And what we know is that there's already been a decrease in freshman enrollment this year, but I think about averaging 16% across the nation. So you have to wonder if there's going to be an opportunity lost for those students, or maybe just not that desire to try the college experience once they come around next fall and say, what should I be doing? Maybe they've got a job that they think isn't the worst thing in the world, and they like getting that paycheck and making some money. And maybe college just doesn't become that priority that they thought it was when they were seniors in high school. So maybe time to rethink how the financial side. I know there's plenty of talk about how to reimagine the financial side of college, but maybe you make it almost an introductory rate for your freshman year. And then once you're committed to it, then the costs start to normalize.
I mean, it's definitely an interesting thing. And the one other thing I would say, and this is from my perspective, and, when in times of recession or in times the economy is bad, like that's actually been usually a good time for higher ed because the opportunity cost of going to school is much less. I don't think we've necessarily seen that with this. We haven't seen the same enrollment spike that we have in the past. And I think that's just because there's so much uncertainty. And so, the longer the pandemic goes, like, we're now starting to talk about fall 2021, and we still don't know what that's going to look like. And so we've got to, we do know right now that more students are talking about doing gap years. Although I don't know what they're going to do instead because you can't travel.
The Gap just closed a ton of stores.
Exactly. I mean, those were the best years of your life when you got to work them all for, $8 an hour or whatever.
I will say this, Phil, to your point here. You like Hanover College, which is my alma mater. It's a private school in Southern Indiana. They partnered with Ivy Tech. So they basically said, hey, go to Ivy Tech for a year. Those credits will transfer, and you basically get a discounted year of getting your education. I think that's what parents and students have to do at this point in time, is to say, okay, this period of time is less than ideal for us, but we need to do something to shift the advantage back in our way. And it might just be a prudent financial decision like that.
Yeah, I mean, if in the case of doing the community college route, like if you can get your gen ed credits going that way, and if that works financially better for you and your family, then that's a great way to go. Knock those gen eds out and then transfer over to Hanover, IU, Purdue, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like just do it. I can't believe I just said transfer to Purdue.
I can't believe you did either.
Your face twitched. I saw it.
That felt bad.
Yeah, it wasn't natural, my friend. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Phil, there's one thing I want to hit when we do come back for the break after we hit biggest waste of money of the week, is endowments aren't actually able to pick up a lot of the slack right now, which is, it's really hard to understand. I know they're finicky instruments, so maybe we'll talk about that when we come back, why these multi-billion-dollar endowments, such as Harvard, can't even step in and mitigate some of these costs. In fact, Harvard's lost already $10 million this year because of that. So we'll talk about all of that next, as long as biggest waste of money of the week and current events, all right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. All right. Ooh, oh, here we go. You knew this was coming.
I did.
Had a girl.
I expected.
Yeah. Phil, have you ever met Kristen from the Your Money Line team?
I can't remember if I've met her. I know I've seen her. Like that's.
She's Queen of the Desert. She is out
Yes.
in Arizona.
I've not met her. I've seen her.
Pete, we've requested a name change.
Oh, of Queen of the Desert?
She is the Queen of the Desert. We're going to emphasize the like they do at the Ohio State University, or so just make sure you hit the every time you announce her as Queen of the Desert.
All right. Well, my apologies. What's the thing that in the military? What do they say, Dame?
Regards or
kindest regards? Or no? Is that right?
I can't remember. She'll chime in.
Anyway, all right. I have to reset the audio here, everybody. Talk amongst yourselves.
This will go well. Wow, it actually worked.
I'm back. Oh, hold on. Craig says, by the way, he's a rebranded now from a student loan expert to recovering student loan expert, business and strategic planning coach. That's right. Craig is a very respectfully. There it is. Levi, thank you. I can't even respectfully think of very respectfully. I got to find a biggest waste. There it is. Man, the whole squad's coming out today to the show.
They heard Phil was on.
Phil's a big deal. Phil, you've been in the New York Times, right?
I think so.
Wow.
The Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
Have you had your face made with like one of those little dot pictures in the Wall Street Journal?
No.
Oh,
that's how you know you've made it.
That is how you make it.
That's the dream.
Yeah, Phil really is a big deal. Phil is a very big deal. It's good to have him on the show.
It's nice to be here.
I haven't talked to you forever.
I know, right?
I really have not.
I was thinking about it. I mean, the last time I saw you was when we went to lunch at Big Lug.
Oh, yeah. Let's
And
give
that
it
was
up
delicious.
for Sam's Restaurant Group.
Yeah, absolutely. Which they opened one down here in Bloomington.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So.
All right, so let's start a show here. Let me get rid of these comments here. And this is also 9 minutes and 40 seconds for those that want to know. I also need to, you know what? I'm not going to show the biggest waste of money of the week on the TV because it's just too hard to pull all these levers. Okay, so I'm being lazy. All right, segment starting in 5, 4, 3, 2. This week's biggest waste of money of the week, right here on the Pete the Planner Show, is Phil. Do you like hummingbirds?
I'm neutral on them.
Have you ever been asked that question before?
What if I said twice?
Dame, are you a hummingbird aficionado?
Who doesn't like hummingbirds?
Well, as far as rare goes, the Victorian hummingbird fire screen is as rare as it gets, and maybe even a little bizarre. This Victorian hummingbird fire screen is at the top of the list of peculiar items for people who love hummingbirds. The 19th century piece features a collection of real taxidermy hummingbirds. Each, I should have read ahead a little bit. Each delicate little bird is perched on branches with some even guarding their own nests. The display is placed between a glazed frame and mounted on two scrolling foliate feet with casters. It's topped with an ornate double-sided shield with initials and crowned by a royal coronet on a pillow. The fire screen was placed in front of the hearth when the fire was out, and for over a century old, the relic has been. And I'll let you guys talk amongst yourself as I put this on the screen for people watching on Facebook Live because they need to see it. Dame, you're buying a fire screen for your fireplace with real taxidermy birds with real nests. How much do you think that costs, Dame?
I mean, where are the hummingbirds from? Are you able to import them to the U.S.? I mean, there's all sorts of potential laws that we could run afoul of here.
Oh my God, what is wrong with you? Dame, I will say this, that I think they were all the finest at this price. Phil, what do you think the price is for this Peruvian? Oh, I didn't say it's Peruvian, but I'm assuming it's something Peruvian. What do you think it costs?
I mean, I have no idea. I'm just going to go with $12.99.
How would you get all these hummingbirds? Do you know how hard it would be to get them all? I'm going to say, for something that weird, $2,500.
And Phil, what was your guess again?
$12.99.
Was that $1,299 or
Yes.
$12.99?
No, $1,299.
The answer is $353,630. I feel like we really succeeded this week on biggest waste of money of the week. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Dame, that was a pretty good one.
No arguments.
I think the last time we were on the show was pretty good too. It was the donkey or whatever that made weird noises.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the old donkey. It's been retired. Dame, it's, I don't know if you heard, there's a presidential election next week. And this past week, the market had some thoughts about that and the pandemic and some other things. And like you and I have predicted, things are volatile again. And so I'm asking you to look into the crystal ball. Oh, I'm sorry, that's your head. And let us know whether or not the volatility will continue next week, which is election week.
Yes, of course it's going to. That's the easiest crystal ball. That's the clearest crystal ball I've ever looked into.
Yeah, Phil, I wonder, when you have market volatility like we've had from March to now, within the students that you come in contact with, that call you guys or come into your offices or virtually schedule an appointment, are you seeing an uptick in concern about volatility, or are they seeing it as an opportunity?
I think we got a lot of students that are sort of blank slates when it comes to it. They're interested in what's going on, and so we use that as an opportunity to tell them, just like anything else, if there's an opportunity to buy something that's low cost, go for it. So it's really a good teaching moment, despite the fact that it's not exactly the best of economic times to be telling people that, but it's a good lesson for them.
Yeah, so Dame, amongst the team this week, we had a little fun with an article that came out on CNBC entitled, "Forget 30-year fixed-rate mortgages. Here's why you'll likely save more money with an adjustable rate mortgage, says finance expert." So Dave, that's the worst advice you could actually give to the masses, is to tell people to get an adjustable rate mortgage because they'll save more money. Can you help us understand why?
Oh, where do I begin? Adjustable rate mortgages, for those that don't know, you typically have a fixed rate for a certain set period of years. And at the end of that period, you're either going to be faced with interest rate increases that'll typically capped at a certain amount in that adjustable rate mortgage, or you're going to have to refinance. And there are, a number of ways you could go with 30, 15, 10, whatever. Or you could sell the house and move on to another property. So you've got some options there. However, most people don't typically see quite that far ahead, and they don't know what the future is going to look like. And therefore, if they are into an adjustable rate mortgage, they're in a house that they want to stay in, and interest rates go up, relatively high, then they're going to get stuck having to refinance into a higher, longer term mortgage, which, by the way, they may have already paid into who knows how many years with that adjustable rate to start with, therefore, increasing the interest that they pay over the life or of that mortgage or combined mortgages. Or they end up with a higher rate interest rate on the ARM. So either way, typically, these don't work out for the person that's going to be in a home for a long time. I think the argument's made in the article that most people don't stay in houses all that long, and so you could feasibly get away with an ARM. However, I'm not sure that that's great advice to just throw out there for the masses.
Yeah, Phil, you know me well enough to know that I don't really enjoy a public feud, other than with my friend Neil Brown, who always is in a public feud of some sort. This article, written by a financial expert, in air quotes, reason number 4 why you should do this is, quote, you'll be more disciplined. Think of an ARM as a money coach who pushes you to stay on top of your finances. Since you have a shorter timeline to reduce debt, you'll be more motivated to pay extra principal every month, quarter, or year. That is the most unrealistic financial advice ever levied. Phil, I just want you to take a guess. If someone has a lower interest rate, therefore they could either A, afford more home, or B, afford the same amount of home and pay extra on the mortgage, what are most people going to do in that situation?
I have watched enough episodes of House Hunters to know that people will go for the more home.
Yes. Dave, it's funny. I've been giving public financial advice for 15 years now. And very early on, you learn that you can't just give people the technical answer because, by the way, theoretically, this advice this expert gave is the technically best advice you can give. But it's the worst advice you can give because it's completely unrealistic. It's just people can't and won't, and the banks don't act as enough of a buffer to help people pull that off. But I have to say, most people who give financial advice publicly know that. This person did not.
I'm not sure. I think they're trying to be the smartest person in the room and make you the second smartest person in the room in this case. And what they don't account for is human behavior, at least in America, human behavior. Because you're exactly right. If people are given the opportunity to get more house or have extra cash flow, it ain't going towards the house for 90% of the people. It's going towards other things that's going to increase their cost of living and potentially put a hurt on them if those interest rates do go up in the long run.
I don't know why I'm about to say this, but this is sort of my beef with people who have dug themselves out of a hole or did something remarkable with their money, and then they become the financial expert to show other people how to do this highly improbable thing. That's a problem. I mean, because a big part of this is giving guidance that the masses can actually deal with. And I think this is a classic example of, well, it worked for me, it should work for you, but that's not at all how it works. Phil, thanks so much for being on the show today. And please thank Lucy for being on the show too. I brought her up and then she got on the show, so I loved it.
She knew you were going to ask.
Yeah. And happy Halloween to Thomas Dunn. That's all we have time for this week on the show. Sending you good vibes because good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner, and this was certainly something. This was our show. All right, the show's over. We did it.
Hey.
Dame, you know how upset I get about stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just dumb.
Yeah.
It seems to be pretty consistently CNBC, right? Like, I
There's a lot of their headlines are financial expert says buy Hummingbird fire screen. You know, a lot of that stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, how many people are going to read that article in the midst of buying a house and then switch to an ARM when they were going to do a 15 or a 30? And then of those people who do it, how many are going to end up in trouble for having done it? And I think that number is very high.
Yeah, if somebody is going into it knowing that they're going to be in a house for 5 years because maybe they just know that job is going to transfer them, maybe you can get away with a 7-year ARM just because you know you're going to be getting rid of the house. But you got to know what's going on. You got to stay on top of it. You got to know yourself and your own financial habits and tendencies, that you're not going to blow the whole thing up by trying to make a shrewd move with your mortgage. That's one thing you don't want to screw up, is your mortgage.
Well, Phil, I know you guys don't give a ton of mortgage advice because most students aren't looking to buy a home. However, you talk to people about the right way to take on debt and interest rates and paying down principal. This feels like something that could easily trap a first-time home buyer because it's something that wasn't covered even with great financial wellness content like you guys are putting out.
Yeah, I mean, well, the other thing too is like I do stuff for faculty and staff as well. So I do get questions quite often about mortgages and try and steer them in the direction of 15 years. You know, but yeah, like when you get articles like this that sort of try and like, again, we have a lot of blank slates, like try and educate blank slates. They come in thinking this is going to be the best way to go about it. And we have to sort of do damage control at that point.
All right. Well, Phil, are you going to come back on the show over again? I mean, you have a nice backdrop, but it looks very curated. I mean, it looks like you're like, you know what? I'm going to be talking to people virtually. I'm going to have the coolest background I can. And then you did it.
So what I will say is that I did rotate my desk. Just because, like, otherwise you would have seen windows and the glare from it. Just you wouldn't have been able to see my face. Just how that comes. So I did rotate my desk. The guitars have been there all along, so that hasn't changed. And actually, same with the photos over there. I did move the IU football helmet over here though, because I mean we're 1-0, and that is unheard of.
Do you think IU would save a lot of money based on what's going on right now in the economy if they didn't have 90 different helmet designs every season for IU football?
I think that goes back to the endowment conversation, doesn't it? Like,
oh, I forgot about
where's that money coming from on that standpoint? Like, you know, did somebody put money in that said like it needs to be used for additional helmet design, and in which case, or was it Adidas? It was like, we're going to do this.
Dame, we've got to ask him to play a song on the guitar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Phil, grab one of those wall hangers and let's hear a song.
What?
Yeah, I mean, you got to play something. You can't have 3 guitars on a wall and then not play anything.
Damn it.
Grab one. Yes. All right. You just have to play a couple chords. Is all you have to do.
Free falling's like 3 or 4 chords.
Right.
Oh, well, I mean, that's...
See?
Yeah, that's free falling.
Oh, man.
So I'm telling you that you came through. You did exactly what he wanted.
Oh, that's what I do.
All right. Well, that was good enough. That's all I needed. I know now he wants to play. He got the ball.
Well, no, now I'm just like, I'm back in high school, and I was like, wait, if I play live, does that mean some girls will actually talk to me? Because that's why I started playing. Bonus points for you.
Oh my gosh! Here it comes.
I don't remember which capo it goes on for Wonderwall.
I don't even know what capo means. Phil, do people still walk around college campuses playing Dave Matthews songs on acoustic guitars?
I mean, does this tell you?
Oh,
Yeah.
This is
Are there
that's
more-
a real obvious moment right there.
Are there more skateboards or Priuses on campus at any given time?
Priuses.
Do people do those, hey, this segment of the show is called Old Guys Ask Question of Other Old Guy About What Young Guys Do.
right?
How about those? What are those Uni-wheels? Those like there's those wheels with like little steps on the side. Are people riding those things?
Uni-wheels, the what?
They're like balance wheels. They're like a big wheel. And
Oh,
you just, you know.
oh, I think I've seen maybe one or two of those.
Do you guys still have those annoying lime and bird scooters everywhere?
Of course we do. This is a college town.
Yeah, those are super spreaders.
They are. We also have another one that's come in too, like another brand. I can't remember what it is, but I don't know.
Sidewalk trash? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Sidewalk trash. Hey,
They,
get out
actually-
sidewalk trash.
Actually, this morning I was walking around town, and there were just four of them camped out, pushed over on the sidewalk.
So here's the thing,
Nature.
gentlemen. I gotta go. This was a lot of fun. It changed my life. Phil, I'm glad to see you're alive.
Hey, it's good to see you too. It is. It's been too long.
I feel like I need to. We'll get down there in the spring. You will go to Buffalo's. It'll be a good time.
I mean, they are open. They've done some fantastic things for the community, so we've been supporting them as much as we can. So if it's coming down here, want to eat outside when it's warm, let's do it.
I think you said we. That means me too.
I'm fine with that. You have to drive farther though.
No, I drive to Indy and then he'll take me the rest of the way.
That's fair.
Okay, gentlemen, enough of us ladies doing lunch discussions. It's time to go. Goodbye, everyone. I hope you have a good Halloween. I hope the election works out for you. I don't want to talk about it. Maybe we'll do it next week. If there's a show next week, we'll talk about it. Probably won't talk about it if there's a show next week. We probably will. All right, goodbye, everybody. Bye, Phil. Bye, Dave.
Bye.